Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Ahmadiyyah Shakur. Okay, so let's talk about the fact that Nolan's frenemies say they're going to sue Al Sharpton because their attorney, Edward Andrew Paltzik, sent Al Sharpton a 19-page letter just to put him on notice. And the information contained in the letter is very salacious. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so basically in the letter he says, this letter should come as no surprise to you, since you recently welcomed a lawsuit against you, boasting at the National Association of Black Journalists Convention. Okay, while we are more than ready for Warren, Jackson, Morgan to sit for their depositions and tell the truth under oath, we're most looking forward to your deposition. Smearing the reputation of young, innocent men mourning the loss of their friend to score cheap political points will prove far easier than explaining yourself under oath. Indeed, you will find dealing with us to be an altogether different experience than indulging in a slanderous rampage applauded by the fawning sycophants in the echo chamber of your inner circle. Okay, I mean, he was really going in hard in the paint. Like I said, he was throwing all kinds of shots. Now, and also, mind you, in this letter, he included screenshots of the supposed phone calls that he says they made. He includes pictures and everything. But there was a discrepancy because one of the things he included, was the screenshot of them on the boat when Wyatt was supposedly on the phone making the call to Cito. And then saying that basically they were supposed to, or they were actually at the time calling for the tow. Now, it states in the letter that the call for the tow was approximately 4:48 p.m. on July the 4th of 2026. And that's interesting because there's a change in the time all of a sudden. Because initially it was reported that the call to Cito started at 4 o'clock and that it lasted approximately 8 minutes and 50 seconds. So no later than 4:08. Okay, and then they supposedly left the island at 4:31, right? But now they're saying in this letter that it was 4:48 when they made the call and that the call lasted about 10 minutes. So I find that very interesting. But also it's important to note that, remember, when the attorneys were on Nancy Grace's show and she asked them for the timeline of that video, which is what they have in the letter, like I said, a screenshot of them on the boat. She asked for the timeline. And remember how they were so reluctant to give her a definitive answer? And then finally, Tyler J. Cox said that it was 4:30. He said it was approximately 4:30 on July the 4th. So 4:30 on Nancy Grace, and now in the letter 4:48, but previously reported 4 o'clock. Now here's the thing. They do have a screenshot showing that a call was made at 4:48. So is that the correct time? Because if it is, that makes it even more suspicious to me because Warren stated that he saw Nolan last at 3 o'clock. Now, we already figured that was not true because Javon said that when he went to go help his friend who was involved in an altercation, it was about 3:40, and that took about 15 to 20 minutes. And when he came back, that Nolan and the boats were gone. Okay, which means that would have been around 4 o'clock. And also, let's not forget that Warren said that he heard his friends yelling for Nolan to get the F on the boat. And so they were supposedly leaving at that time. So we know that it definitely was not 3 o'clock when he last saw him, according to his own words. And if, in fact, they made the call at 4:48, well, that means he saw him even later than we initially thought. Okay, so please pay attention. But anyway, he goes on to say, the attorney that is, he says, have they brought these 3 young men in for questioning? Now, he's repeating what Al Sharpton asked. What Al Sharpton said, have they brought these 3 young men in for questioning under oath? Okay, you again left no doubt you were referring to who you were referring to when you stated, how does anybody say that no race played a role? Okay, so he's saying that when Al was asking all these questions and saying all these things, that he was talking about Warren, Jackson, and Morgan. Here's the thing. How do they know that that's who he was speaking about when he never named the individuals? Because he could have been talking about Warren, Wyatt, and Bart, because those were the 3 people that everyone was suspicious of from the get-go. No one even said anything about Jackson Morgan until they decided to do an interview and put themselves in the line of fire on Rage Tatum's show. Okay, so anyway, He talked a whole bunch of trash and saying that, Al better pretty much take down everything that he has said, recant every statement that he has made, and also apologize not only verbally in public, but also in writing, and gave him notice that he has 7 days, I believe it was, from the time that 10 days from the time that he receives this letter to do all of these things, and that when he writes down the post or writes down the statement for him to post where he's retracting all of this and apologizing, that is supposed to be posted for at least 7 days. Okay? This is so crazy to me because I don't see how he thinks, the lawyer that is, I don't see how he thinks they have a leg to stand on. Because like I said, I don't see anywhere where Al Sharpton said anything that was of the least bit defamatory. All he's doing is asking questions, the same questions that we all have. Okay, and the reason we have all of these questions is due to them and their supposed suspicious activity and strange behavior. Okay, please pay attention. They brought this on themselves. Okay, and not to mention the fact that none of them have been arrested, even though there seems to be a whole lot more than probable cause. I mean, at the end of the day, the conflicting statements, the fact that Warren admitted to a crime, saying that they were all drinking, aren't they underage, and who was giving them the alcohol? These are some of the questions, okay? And then he also says that Al accused them of tampering with evidence and red rumming Nolan, and he says all of these things, because these are felonies, this could damage their reputation, and he went on to quote the law from Mississippi and everything. But what I will say, what I gathered from this most importantly, what I gathered is that the lawyer has created his own timeline of the events, okay? And I want to see how this all plays out because Nolan's mom has subpoenaed the records from CETO and Ward Marine Services. And that's going to, now that he's done this, put all of this information in this letter. I mean, it read like a true crime novel almost, like the beginning pages of a true crime novel with all the information he included in here, all of the screenshots, from all the phone calls that Warren supposedly made, whether it was to Mrs. Wansley, Coast Guard, okay, to the police. He even included the text messages between Warren and Mrs. Wansley. I mean, he was really working hard to prove his point. Now, like I said, I'm just curious to see if this timeline that the attorney created is going to match the timeline that Mrs. Wansley intends to get from CETO and Ward Marine Services. Okay, that's what's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out, because I can assure you, as of now, having read this entire letter, the whole 19 pages, I can absolutely tell you there's some holes in the timeline. Okay, so please pay attention. And the last thing I want to say is I paid attention really closely to the pictures included in the letter. And what I noticed is that is absolutely not a hand or a foot or a body part that was popping up off of the boat. We all clearly thought it was. Many of us, I'll say, thought it was. And we were all mistaken because I can clearly see, and if you look at this picture, you can clearly see that's not what that is. Okay, please pay attention. Because as you can see, that is the same object right there in the water. Okay, right there in the water, and it looks like it's connected to the rope. So I'm not sure what that is. Is it the thing that they were pulling the rope from? I don't know. But it definitely is not a body part. Okay, so we all really messed up on that. But hey, it's just our speculation and theories. And the reason we have been doing all of this is because they have not been transparent. The police, law enforcement, or the DA. Okay, and the friends have been transparent. But the thing is, much of the things they have said just don't add up. I mean, the math isn't mathing. So that's clearly why we're all suspicious. Please pay attention. The bottom line is Nolan's mother is not satisfied with what they have been doing thus far in the investigation. That's why they launched their own independent one. And she does not trust law enforcement in Mississippi. And who could blame her at this point? Also, she really wants to know what happened to Nolan. She's not made this about race. She hasn't done anything nefarious. The fact that she's gotten so much pushback from people who just don't want these young men to have any consequences, if in fact they did anything, is just crazy to me. But that is also what has further fueled public suspicion. Okay, please pay attention. Drop me a comment to let me know what you think about all of this.